Hello all, welcome to another endgame study of the Solving Harder Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This composition was made by the Polish chess composer Szaja Kozlowski. It's very interesting. It has a very hard start, in my opinion. Nevertheless, it pays the effort for the practice, so let's go. As always, I suggest you watch the guide if you haven't, and the main countdown of 10 minutes will start, and then I resume with you with the beginning of the solution. And here we are. Let's go for the first good move, which is Rook d7, brilliant one. Well, I have called this one brilliant one because any other move from the starting position is losing for white. So we are in the edge of losing the game, the end game study, not even drawing. So this one deserves the brilliant one. We need to find it. I don't think it's hard, but we need to find it. What's happening on the position is simple. We have one extra rook, of course, but white has, black has 4 pawns, and one of the a pawn, it's very dangerous. It's threatening to promote, and the bishop is even controlling the diagonal to the promotion square. So white has not many options. Notice that, for example, going directly to control the second rank, this is just a basic mistake because, of course, black will find bishop b2, so blocking the rook to access the a file, and next moves will just advance the pawn and promote without white being able to do nothing about it, and it's losing over here. So after we saw this one, we see that okay, we need to do something that forces black to react and give us time to prepare for the win, and so rook d7, I think it's obvious. The idea is we are now threatening to play bishop c3, so both threatening to win the bishop, and while we are controlling the promotion of the pawn, so not a big deal if the pawn advances now. Bishop d3, bishop c3 solves the problem, and white will be winning. Of course, from black perspective now, the idea is okay, I have my bishop pinned, so let's solve this one. But going with the king to the h file and going to h8 is the same thing, just allows white to play rook d8, so accessing the 8th rank. The king probably comes back, and then we reach a8, so we are able to control the pawn from behind, and there's nothing black can do now. Just protecting the pawn is not enough because we are going to play bishop b4. The pawn is lost. If it advances, it's the same thing. So we are going for the win over here. So without this being a good option for black, of course, black will go with the king h6. Now, the first moment for another thinking moment. The countdown will start, a short one of 1 minute. If you need more, pause and then try to resume with the continuation, and I catch you back in a while. And here we are. This is not easy. Why? Because, of course, going with the rook a7, so basically controlling the a diagonal, doesn't work at the moment because, of course, black will have this simple fork, just winning the rook and then the game, of course. Other options over here, because it's very tempting, now the king is in a dark square, it's to check with the bishop, but black can solve this problem very easy with advancing the pawn. So after this, coming with the bishop to d2, now white is in a very dangerous situation because the pawn is threatening to advance, of course, and white is playing for a draw, needs to find something very, very fast. Of course, this is almost a moment to stop the clock, but I won't do that because we will have more interesting moments for you. But here, white needs to find this continuation, needs to sacrifice the bishop, because the idea is if black accepts, which would be a mistake, then we simply take the other bishop, and as soon the king moves, now I am controlling diagonal, and after a while I will grab the pawns and win with a rook and king this end game. It's going to be easy. But of course, black won't accept the sacrifice and moves the king to g6, which forces white to play for a draw in a very hard situation. My suggestion is more or less doing this move, very interesting one, sacrificing the rook with a check. The idea is now black takes back, and now I have time to come to the diagonal, and so we get a draw because white won't be able to grab the pawns. Of course, the king will always be connected with at least one, and the bishop can't leave the diagonal to help the king because the pawn is always threatening to promote to a queen. And so bishop d2 was a good idea, but fails miserably. At least fails into a draw, not a loss. If we find these maneuvers of going with the bishop, sacrificing, and so on. And so after we have discarded these moves, we need to find a very brilliant one, which is king f3. Brilliant move. Of course, the understanding of the mood requires the continuations, of course, and over here, black will play the simple advancing of the pawn. There's no doubts about it. So now the threat is immediately. Here we are threatening to promote in the next move. And of course, because the bishop is controlling the promotion square, the best we can think at the first moment is for the rook to sacrifice for the pawn, but then we will have to play against bishop and 3 pawns. So another minute for you before we continue. Try to find the continuation for white that keeps white playing for a win. And here we are. We already talked a bit about possible ways for white that doesn't work, like going, for example, with the rook to d1 or to a7, because in the next move the pawn promotes, so that doesn't work. And so white needs to find another brilliant move, which is rook d2. Brilliant. Why this is brilliant? Well, let's say, for example, black now promotes to a queen. Well, this explains why the king went to f3, of course. The idea is checking the king. Now the king only has one square. The king needs to go to g5, and everything now starts to get into place. We check the king, forcing the king to come back to h6 or f5, whatever. And whatever he chooses, now he just removes the bishop in this diagonal, and we get a check and a mate. And goodbye. We are very happy with it. Of course, this is the idea behind the king coming to f3 now to block this g4 square and allowing the bishop to come to h4 to this checkmate, this brilliant checkmate idea. And this brilliant idea is not the end of the study, because black has another idea also, which is to take the bishop to b2. So we were threatening, of course, also to take the pawn. If the king, for example, would try to move away to h7, something like that, we simply grab the pawn and then we keep moving on, and then we are playing for a win. But now things are different, because if I take the bishop, it's a mistake, of course, because otherwise I will have the pawn promoting. So last minute for you. Try to find the continuation, and then I'll come back to resume this to finish with style. let's go for the final continuation of this solution. I hope you found it. The maneuver is very smart. We simply first check the king. So the king can't come to g5. We already saw that, because otherwise we simply check it again with the bishop and the king tries to escape, but it's too late for it. It's a checkmate again. With our bishop is controlling the other escape square. So it would be a disaster for black. So black goes and plays g7. And with g7, it makes a bit strange. How can we continue now? But of course, if you are over here, I think you already saw that now we take the bishop and black, for example, promotes. Otherwise, I will control the promotion. But we have this interesting one, bishop c3. Over here, it's the end of the study. We are checking the king. At the same time, we are going to play for winning the queen. As soon as the king move, we'll have always a discover check. Let's say, for example, the king comes again to the h file, the discover check is on the other side. So whatever the king tries to hide away, we will have a discover check. The king moves, and next move we grab the queen, and then just a question of time to win this one. Hope you have enjoyed. This didn't look so easy from the starting position. It wasn't. We needed to find several brilliant moves, but that's why we enjoy chess. Hope you also have enjoyed it, and catch you up with future videos. Bye bye.